I don't know how I would say that this ability develops, but this is more of an experience. When you initially start as a product manager and you have to interact and balance out so many people, their opinions, their suggestions, it's extremely overwhelming. So it's not something you just go and you get it, you know. So it's something you develop over a period of time. There are some skill sets you prepare for, you learn, you're ready for it, and you go in and you perform. But this is something which builds your experience, I think. And context switching is very important because as a product manager, you can't keep sticking on to if for instance, there is a you go to your engineer and the engineer says, okay, this cannot be done this way, and there's a technology constraint to this, and we cannot achieve this or something like that. Then it's not like you cannot just develop that mindset. Okay, I cannot do this, we cannot do that, and you know, you need to come up with alternative solutions. Okay, if this cannot happen, then what can happen, so that you'll immediately be able to context switch and go to the business people and tell, okay, we are slightly changing some things here, and we are going to make sure that your requirements are met, but there will be a certain change of path. And then there are the users. Then you go to the users, you communicate to them that if this happens, I mean, you give them a mock-up or a prototype and try whether if that happens, if alternate solution is there, will they be able to work around that and use the product effectively. So you need to be able to quickly change your context, quickly able to test the ideas, and quickly able to implement it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to your brand new podcast called In Your Shoes. This podcast is for you to learn more about new people and professions from around the world. I would like to take you on a journey to understand the life and times of a new person every 2 weeks and get a chance to get into their shoes to learn what they do, why they do, and how they do it.
Sneha is a close friend of mine, and we have known each other for more than 15 years. She has wide range of experience in software development, product management, and user research. She is an eternal learner with a clear strength to pick up new fields and domains across her career. I'm so happy to have her on the podcast today. Welcome to the podcast, Sneha.
Thank you so much, Vivek, for this introduction. I'm extremely delighted to be on your show. To the listeners, I'm Sneha Ravindra. I have been a product manager for software products. I have mostly worked in the media space for national broadcaster in Singapore, which is more of a B2C type. And recently, I have been working in education space with Cialfo, which is a EdTech startup, which is more of a B2B platform whose mission is to help every prospective student get into universities of their choice and make education accessible. Prior to this, as Vivek mentioned, my background is in software development, and I've also been into user experience research.
Thank you, Sneha, for a nice introduction about yourself. You mentioned about EdTech. Can you just give a quick view of what does EdTech mean to you, and how and what is this whole educational tech all about?
When we think of education, education has mostly been a very traditional or has been commoditized and especially commercialized these days. But when I look at the future of education, it's going to be more like students sitting at their homes and education reaching right to them at their fingertips. The advancement in technology has been such that you no longer need to be present in a classroom to learn something. All the information is available on the internet, and everything is coming to you at your fingertips. That's what would be I would say is a revolution in education. As we are seeing the advancement every day, where education has to be made accessible to every student, whether they are able to go and attend a formal education, go to universities or no, they are still able to perform. Some of the great people who have built great startups and become millionaires have not even got a formal education. So the face of education is totally changing right now, and working in something like a EdTech industry is about revolutionizing and giving a new angle to how education is perceived. And I would say that technology is definitely enhancing the education space, and we are going to see a lot of change in it in the forthcoming years. And I'm excited to be a part of a edtech startup, which has a vision of making education accessible to all the students.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for succinctly describing what you do and why you do that. So, Sneha, you mentioned that you are working as a product manager in an edtech space. Could you just give a quick view of what does a product manager do in a day-to-day life?
Okay, for a product manager, no 2 days are identical. It involves a lot of things across business, across users, and across design. So, the intersection of business design, and user is what a product manager's role lies in. And what I do on a day to day is. Some days are pretty heavy on strategic planning, roadmap planning, feature prioritization. Some other days are mostly usability testing, doing some designs, coming up with mock-ups, and other days are liaising with engineers, trying to understand the problems they are facing and get to the correct solution design. And some other days are about concentrating totally on user pain points and coming up with better solutions to address the problems they are facing.
Okay. So I see that there's a broad range of responsibilities and areas that you need to focus as a product manager.
Hmm.
So how do you, as a product manager, are able to balance and focus between this broad range of roles in your work life?
That's a very interesting question. And as a product manager, I believe that one of the most important quality a product manager should have is to be able to context switch, to be able to easily go from one being a user centric person to understanding what is technology constraint, and also understanding what the business is, what the budget is. So you must be able to switch so frequently and so quickly that it's like it should look seamless, and that's a holistic experience, and that's how you can build a successful product. So if you're not able to do that quickly, then there are chances that you may not be able to do justice to any of this. So it's very important to be able to don all these hats one after the other pretty quickly. Yeah.
Okay. I think we should be spending a little more time in our podcast at a later part, really going into the fundamentals of context switching, because I think a lot of our listeners and also me would be really curious how one builds this capability, given now we have so much need, so many distractions and things that just take our attention. But we will probably keep it at later part of our conversation. What I what I like to do now is also just spend more time on your trajectory that led you to be able to take this job and the profession that you are in. So, you had mentioned in the introduction that you started as a software developer and then made the transition to the product role that you currently play. Can you quickly, briefly explain how did you attempt to move to this role and what prompted you to change your career choice from being a software person, a software developer, to actually now managing a product?
Yeah, sure. This is a long journey, and it has had its own ups and downs, and it's been a very beautiful journey. I started as a software developer where I was keen on creating products, and I thought creating it, making it, writing the code, getting your hands dirty is the best way, and it's the most satisfying thing. And I didn't think about the other picture where who's my customer who's using it, what's happening with it. So I was more on, okay, there are deadlines, I have to work, I'm a creator and stuff like that. But there came a point when I realized that there's something more to it than just looking at a specification and trying to write a piece of code. There was a lot more in the background which is happening, and that's how it got my interest. And I read some blogs, and Don't Make Me Think by Steve Krug was one of a life changing moment for me, where I read that book and I felt that how important a user is, and what is a user centric design, and how you design for a user. So that is how it changed me, and I felt that I should explore that. And so far it's been a very satisfying journey that I transitioned from software role to this. And I feel a much holistic experience, because having gone through being a developer to being a product manager, I now understand at various phases what are the difficulties you face, what are the challenges, and how do you overcome them. And I would also say that there's a one important rule which I follow, which I think are the most important principles for me for product management. There I call it the 3 P's. One is the persistence, perseverance, and patience. So persistence, even at difficult times, you want to keep doing it, you want to achieve it. Perseverance, you don't give up, you know that you're building the right thing. When you have validated it and you're sure about it, you keep doing it until you get it right. And patience with your users, patience with your engineers, patience with all the stakeholders you work with. You negotiate, you get things done. So I believe those are the 3 important P's for a product manager to have. So so building all this over a period of time, I feel it's been a great journey. And I would definitely encourage anybody who has empathy, who has all these 3 qualities, to try their hands on product management. It's a very satisfying role.
Thank you. I really liked the 3 P's that you talked about: persistence, perseverance, and patience. I would love to know how this 3 P's, and how did you basically went on the journey to be able to build on these 3 P as a skill set. Like, how did you gain persistence, perseverance, and patience? Is that something innate in you as a person, as a personality, or you had to do something intentionally to be able to build the skills in your career?
I think I would give the credit to my kids who have developed patience in me, who have tested my patience enough that I've become quite patient. And okay, jokes apart, I think as a woman myself, I feel we have a sixth sense, a compassion and empathy, which is much higher than men. Sorry, I don't have no offense, but that's how I feel that based on the empathy, passion, and your patience, you build it across. It starts building when you start working on products. So in order to build this in you, in order to inculcate these values when you want to build a product, start from creating something. It need not be an app, it need not be a website or any piece of software. It can just start simple as a blog. You create a content, and you understand how you go through the journey, how you write down each sentence so that people are going to read that. So you invest a lot of time in it, in creation. So have a creator's mindset. So when you start developing a creator's mindset, you automatically gain all these things in this journey. So it's more of a process of being it's like if you keep looking at the goal, probably sometimes it's difficult to achieve, but when you go through the process, you'll know and you'll get there. That's how I can put it: develop a creator's mindset.
Okay, that's really interesting. So what you're saying is, if you want to be able to gain the skills of persistence, perseverance, and patience, one of the ways is to be able to have a mindset of a creator.
Yeah,
And it doesn't matter what you create, what matters is the process of creation.
that's right.
Brilliant. I like that a lot. Okay. Thank you, Sneha, for actually giving that view to our listeners. And I think these are such deep topics that we can probably spend hours talking about it. But unfortunately, we don't have that much of time. So I would like to then also try to get to know more of your role and the work that you do. So, what made you attracted to the space of edtech, and especially being a software developer for a long time, what prompted you that you had to make this leap to take up a profession of a product manager?
Uh, so uh, Again, I would come back to my parental instincts, and I always have the uh, I don't know. I always compare my parental instincts with my profession. Somehow, I always find answers for all of my product management questions in my real life because I have two kids whom I handle, and I have been the primary caregiver mostly, and I've seen them grow, and I see that. Uh, I've seen how education has been and how kids are like forced to learn something, then go and vomit out in the test and then get grades, and how the whole thing develops pressure, stress, and learning becomes like it gets no value finally. So I looking at all that, I always felt that there is a need, that there is a revolution in education. There's a need that we step up, and especially as a parent, I would always want my kid to learn the right things and learn the right way, and not by just going through some books, or there are so many avenues to learn. So that's something which always attracted me, and when I got a chance to work in a edtech, it was like very tempting to take it up. And I'm doing very interesting things, and also I feel that becoming a product manager is something more like being a kindergarten teacher. It's like the CEO or the founder becomes a parent, and the product is their child. It's a baby, and it's their favorite, and they're always clinging on to it, and they cannot trust the baby on anybody else. And a product manager comes in as a kindergarten teacher here, and the product manager will take the idea. It's a vague idea. They'll pick it up and harness it and convert it into a polished material. So so it's very important to understand the mindset here, because as a kindergarten teacher, I have seen the tough roles they don, because I daily interact with the teachers when I go and drop my son, pick my son, and I see they have to manage a bunch of kids. They have to manage a bunch of expectations from parents. Parents are they have to trust them. They don't trust them. There's a lot of things happening here, and a teacher has to balance out and make sure that the expectations are met. The kid is growing right. The kid is getting the right things. So that's how I see the whole picture. So I'll always think from that perspective, and I'll be like, okay, you're entrusting me with a product, you're entrusting with me with your baby. I will look after it. I have to make sure that it's going in the right direction. So that's the analogy I usually use.
I really like the relationship between a kindergarten teacher and a product manager. I think it's a very interesting analogy, and I think it makes sense in a lot of different ways. And I felt when you were replying, I felt that it's like you're scratching your own itch. So you see the problems being a parent, and especially in how your kids are being educated, and then you get into the grooves and you want to solve this problem yourself.
It's getting into your shoes, just like your show.
Thank you for that. So Sneha, I think it's a nice segue to talk about how does your day at work in your profession usually look like? Can you share this with our listeners?
Sure. So my typical day would start since I work for a a small startup, we always look for we always follow the agile methodologies, and I usually start my day by opening my Jira and looking at my tickets and how the progress has been. So I do a role of a product owner to product manager to business analyst at times, and then there are times when I create tickets. That's when I analyze the requirements, and there are some times where I get to talk to users. That's one of my most favorite thing, I would say, where I would listen to the user. And another important thing of being a product manager is being a good listener. So it's not about always talking or always asking questions or always spitting out ideas, because some people expect product managers to be idea machine, like it's like a ATM, just put something and they'll just take out the idea. It's not like that. So there's a lot of things which goes behind when idea is created and a solution is given, when a problem is being solved. There's too many things in the background which shouldn't be discounted. So there is you got to think about competitors, you got to think about strategies, you got to think whether you're solving the correct problem even. So just going to the solution is not very important. You need to think that, is this worth even solving, or is this the thing you want to do, or is this the future you want for this product? So coming up with a roadmap and thinking analytically, giving some time, it's very important to understand what the vision is. So as a product manager, we always have to live in the future. We always have to think what is going to happen when I release this product, whether the user is going to use it, how is he going to go through this path, is the journey simple for the user or no. So we always have to live in future. So that's what I think. And it's really important that you constantly think like a user. That's what you have to do every day. You have to remind yourself that you're designing this for users, and you're also making sure the business is not hurt. So there's too many things which is always going on in your head, and every day is going to be like that. So it's like you have to think this. If you don't have this holistic perspective every day, then probably it's very hard for you to juggle between business and user needs, and also maintain aesthetically pleasing design. That's what I would say.
Okay. And Sneha, you mentioned about work talking to users and working with other roles. I think you mentioned design there. So in a high level overview, what kind of other roles that you as a product manager have to work with on a daily basis?
I mostly work with Scrum Masters, with mm, UI designers. I also work with the marketing team and sales team. So there are a lot of teams which we work, and it's a role where you got to balance. You got to talk to different people, gather a lot of feedback, get them all to agree on some new feature or new product, and make sure that they're all happy about what we are building. And that's when you get to prioritize what in your list, what do you want to do and stuff like that. And that's when you come up with the final roadmap, or what do you want to build next, and things like that. So it involves a lot of people. So everybody in the company, you will keep interacting, whether it's the testers, whether it's the engineers, whether it's marketing, yeah, everyone.
Okay. So, Sneha, I would like to now jump back to the topic of context switch because I think it's quite interesting and also could be very useful for people. So, the way I want to have you address this is kind of share with us what is your process for switching contexts across the different pieces of work that you do as a product manager.
This is a tough one. I don't know how I would say that this ability develops, but this is more of an experience. When you initially start as a product manager and you have to interact and balance out so many people, their opinions, their suggestions. It's extremely overwhelming. So it's not something you just go and you get it, you know. So it's something you develop over a period of time. There are some skill sets you prepare for, you learn, you're ready for it, and you go in and you perform. But this is something which builds your experience, I think. And context switching is very important because as a product manager, you can't keep sticking on to if for instance, there is a you go to your engineer and the engineer says, okay, this cannot be done this way, and there's a technology constraint to this, and we cannot achieve this or something like that. Then it's not like you cannot just develop that mindset, okay, I cannot do this, we cannot do that, and you know, you need to come up with alternative solutions. Okay, if this cannot happen, then what can happen, so that you'll immediately be able to context switch and go to the business people and tell, okay, we are slightly changing some things here, and we are going to make sure that your requirements are met, but there will be a certain change of path. And then there are the users. Then you go to the users, you communicate to them that if this happens, I mean, you give them a mock up or a prototype and try whether if that happens, if alternate solution is there, will they be able to work around that and use the product effectively. So you need to be able to quickly change your context, quickly able to test the ideas, and quickly able to implement it.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. And I think it's also a good segue for the next part of our discussion. So, every profession has a set of stereotypes and what I call it perceptions from the outside. Sometimes they are completely off, they're completely incorrect, and sometimes they are kind of right, but it depends on the level of intensity of it. So, from your perception, um, being a software engineer for a long time and then moving to product manager and now being a product manager yourself, do you see any kind of stereotypes or perceptions about your profession from outside?
Yeah, definitely. This is very interesting, and I've come across many people think that product managers are just project managers. They just deliver projects, and they look at timelines. They give you like when can we deliver, who is working on it, and stuff like that. They're often confused to be a project manager, but this that is extremely. It's like it's very underrated, and it's not really true. And I would say that there's a lot of confusion in here, and there are two different roles and they do two different things, and both are equally important. So a project manager doesn't have to look at the UX UI of a product, or how the user is going to use it, how's the user journey going to be, or they don't have to do competitive analysis or market research. Whereas a product manager, they have to look at the budget, the business, they have to do competitive analysis, they have to make sure they're getting the product right, and whether the user is happy with it, whether there is an acceptance test of the user which is passed when you give the UI to them and check the prototypes. So there's a lot of difference between that, and I often see that there is a confusion still. Product management is emerging right now. It's very trendy. Many people from different, I've seen a lot of different people taking it up. There are some HRs who want to move into product management. There are some designers who want to move into product management. There are some testers who want to move into product management. And product management is such a versatile, what do I say, area where it welcomes everybody with open arms. You just need critical thinking. You just need compassion, empathy for users, and to be able to feel it, and also be able to solve some problems. So those are the things which you really need. So you don't have to be from a technology background to become a product manager. So there's often a lot of confusion over all these things. So that's what I would say. And the other thing which I said was product managers are often told that okay, they always refuse things. They say no whenever we ask for something. They say no, and so there's a lot of thing behind a no, and sometimes people are not ready to listen to all those reasons, and so we come across as more as people who follow too much of rules or process, or look into a backlog and features and prioritization and stuff like that.
Thank you. So, Sneha, if someone listening to this podcast want to get into the same profession, what would be your recommendation for them to, like, things that they should pick up or learn? What experiences that that you would like them to have in order for them to be ready to take up this role as a product manager?
Sure, I would encourage anybody who would love to create something to try product management, because it's an amazing experience to build something from scratch, to think about different possibilities, to think about how a user is going to use it. So, if you want to start off into product management, I would say pick up anything, pick up a new product, or you pick a phone or whatever you pick up. Just look at how the usability is. Try to understand that what you're feeling as a user, because we often just open something, start using it, we don't even notice what we are doing. So the first step would be to notice what you're doing, how you're going about it, how somebody has designed and given you in such a way that it was so easy for you to click that and open an email and type in and just click send and it goes away. So it's very easy, we just use it, we don't understand that how we are using it is because it was built in a certain way. So if you're opening a browser, going somewhere, doing something, just pay a little bit more attention to the journey you're going through. So the moment you start understanding the journey and you start creating something, as I told, just pick up a small blog, or pick up a website which is your favorite, go through it, think how you could improve it, or how it has been built so that you are able to do what you want to do in there. So think about that process, put it down, share it with users, talk to other fellow product managers, subscribe to blogs, read TechCrunch, Product Hunt, and there's so much material out there. So read books. So that's how I would say you must start. And yeah, create something. Creators mindset is something I would definitely endorse if you want to come into product management.
Fantastic. I think I already see a book coming from you sometime soon called Creator's Mindset.
Sounds good, but I'm not sure.
Thank you, Sneha, for sharing your story with our listeners. I think this has been very interesting conversation with you, and I think a lot of gems that you shared with us is respect to what it takes to be able to pursue a product management as a career. Is there a set of recommendations, like a books or blog posts or podcasts that you recommend other people relevant to product management or in general that is interesting for you?
Yeah, I would definitely suggest reading Don't Make Me Think by Steve Krug. It's a very beautiful book on usability principles for anybody who wants to get into user experience design or product management. It has a lot of gems in it, and it's really beautifully written. So, and I also love Clayton Christensen's Innovator's Dilemma. That's really well written and has a lot of important context for a product manager in making decisions with respect to disruptive innovation, and it's really a very good read. I would suggest that. And as for blogs, you can follow Product Hunt, TechCrunch. There's a lot out there. So yeah, I think these are very good beginners.
Thank you. uh, I think thank you, Sneha, for the conversation. I think it was very interesting and stimulating for me, and I hope also for our listeners. So, Sneha, if our listeners would like to reach out to you for further questions or seeking advice, what would be the right channel for them to talk to you?
Sure. You could follow me on Medium, Sneha Ravindra, or you could reach out to me on LinkedIn. or you could follow me on Twitter. I'm there. So yeah, I would be very happy to answer any questions related to product management. And if you want to get in there, then sure, please approach me.
Thank you. And I will have the links of the books and the blog post that you mentioned in our show notes and also your contact details then.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Vivek. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for actually opting to be able to come onto my show. I really appreciate your time with me.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining this podcast. I hope this was useful and you learned a lot. For more such great podcasts, please do not forget to subscribe to the podcast channel In Your Shoes on SoundCloud, Spotify, and Apple Music. New podcasts are uploaded every 2 weeks. Goodbye.